Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. We're here at JD Cycle Works in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. So I left the house really early this morning, about 5:30 a.m. To get here nice and early, so this way we could have quite a bit of time putting the pistons and cylinders back on the motor, and we'll see what else we have time to put together. Hopefully the rest of the motor, but we'll see. But let me take you guys inside. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, click that subscribe button, give this video a like, and we'll see you guys inside. All right, guys, so here is the man, Dave.
Good morning.
And we're gonna start putting stuff back together. Arlen Ness air cleaner that he ordered for my bike. And let me know what you guys think of it. It's I think it's gonna match. We're gonna put it up against the bike right now. It's black, bigger air filter, so forth. So let's go back to the bike.
You know, it is smoking, but it's not.
More bikes in, huh? Good morning.
Actually, anything that comes out that tailpipe, that smoke is excessive. Shouldn't be without anything.
That's a nice color too on that Road Glide.
Yeah, beautiful. I think they call it amber whiskey.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Very popular color.
Oh, it's got a lot of, yeah.
Well, I just blew the cooling hose
Got a little
off.
engine upgrade to it.
Very nice.
Legend suspension in it.
Nice.
But you know, somehow oil's getting in the intake. This
Here's
is the
getting
one
an upgrade.
that poured it all over
Nice
my
too.
face.
So that's Arlen Ness too.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah, they work really well. They got a nice style.
Very nice.
So
Yep.
it's a win all the way around.
Absolutely.
You can see the dogs in here.
Yeah. Nice bike. Also, he's got the, is that the black chrome too?
That's right. Yep, he's got
Ah,
just finishing putting this one together.
after my bike or no?
Yes.
Oh, really? Nice.
This day is set aside for you, John.
Question, there she is. So yeah, so this, yeah, because I have the foot pegs like that, that'll match.
Oh yeah, you got the match. You got
Yeah, it's gonna,
enough there.
that'll be fine. I think that'll look really good.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. Done deal. We solved that problem.
Yep,
Yeah, because the air filter we were going to use, they were back ordered.
gotcha.
So we can't get them, just like the S&S cylinders we couldn't get them. So we'll find the other options here.
So let me ask you a question, because a lot of people have been asking. The cylinders, who makes them?
Who makes them? Daytona Cylinder Company makes them for zippers. That's who makes them for a lot of people.
So they make them for S&S as well, or does S&S?
S&S has a different vendor.
Oh, I
They have a
see.
different style.
Oh, so they don't necessarily make it, even
Nope.
S&S. They
Nobody
don't
makes
actually. Nobody makes them. So there's somebody produces it for them.
Yeah.
So when they say, because a lot of people actually commented, oh, it's the zippers kit is better than the S&S.
They're all good. You know,
But is there any difference?
the difference is the shape of the cylinder's a little different down here. You know, zippers does use a different piston that they have made. That's a setter compression.
So zippers makes those pistons?
Weisco makes them.
Who?
I'm pretty sure Weisco makes them for them.
Gotcha.
Again, there's a lot of manufacturers that most have.
So is it their design? Is it
Yes,
their,
absolutely.
Oh, it's okay. Now, so that
Yeah.
so we understand. So it's
Yeah.
Zipper's design, but they don't actually produce the piston.
Yeah, and they produce their own cams and grind their own cams and
Right,
do all the
right,
machine
right.
work and all the R&D to build their packages.
Gotcha.
You know, but it's hard.
So
to,
this is also a Zipper's design
yeah,
cylinder, but not necessarily, they don't produce it in-house.
right.
Gotcha.
Right. They get the
Okay.
cores from a major manufacturer, as S&S
And a
does.
huge thanks to Zippers again for sending us this stuff out, so we get the bike build going.
Oh yeah, Zippers is a great company.
Yeah, a lot of people commented really good stuff about Zippers.
Yes, I've been using them for many years for all my machine work on cylinders, some head work, and
Right.
different parts. They're great people. You know, they have a lot of great packages. I just
Okay.
always like to put my own twist on things.
Gotcha. So does the, like, say for instance, does the Zippers pistons and cylinders produce more power than the S&S kit?
I'm
or
setting the compression the same as the S&S ones. In fact, actually, I'm giving you a little more compression. So
Okay,
we may
good.
see some different power out of this, but I never forecast numbers because
Yeah.
that's like being jinxed.
Right.
I'm real superstitious.
Okay.
You know.
All right, good.
But I already worked out the compression numbers by measuring out the heads and the volume to the pistons and all that. And,
Nice.
And the deck height over here, I can show you here.
Oh, so you got one on already?
Yeah, well, this isn't installed.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, I'll show you quick. You got to measure your deck height. You got to know how high this piston is, either down in the cylinder or flat base of the cylinder or up above it. And that's very important. So I got a gauge here.
Let me go on the other side.
I have a gauge here which measures it, and you can see right now it's showing, this is at top dead center. You can see on this side it's showing what, 3 thousandths? And over here it's showing, you know, around 8 thousandths. So average, it's probably around 5 thousandths down the hole, because these pistons will rock in the cylinders a little bit,
Right.
and change those numbers. So you got to kind of average it.
Gotcha.
And this has a little dish, and you can see the
Right.
dial indicator is falling to that dish right now. So I got to make sure I measure at the edge of the piston.
Right.
So that is deck height. That's super important to know that, because this tells us helps us get to our proper amount of compression we're looking for.
Gotcha.
And then we can dial it in by head gasket thickness.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, and also the other part of this is measuring the volume.
So obviously the more gaskets, the less compression.
Yes.
Oh.
Yep. But you don't want to just put tons of compression on, because you have to match with what the cam wants.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to have a big problem.
Gotcha.
You know, you don't just pound compression on. It's got to work together. It's got to be correct cylinder pressures. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of detonation troubles. And,
Gotcha.
and not enough compression, it's going to be a dog.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was doing here to kind of get ahead a little bit to help us move forward today.
Cool.
And over here, got the heads pretty close. I was just finishing up this morning before you got here, changing out the valve springs. So we're using a TTS valve spring here, which is set for his cams. They're a nice valve spring. They're a little heavier weight, but they're not a killer spring pressure, so it's not going to be too hard on the valve train. Here's your old ones and your old seals. Whenever you do these, I always mark the top with a marker, because everything looks similar. This way you don't forget.
Gotcha.
So essentially what we're going to do now is we're just going to take the spring, put it in here. And we'll bring this on down. This valve spring compressor I have here is awesome, except I don't remember where I got it from. Had it for a long time. Put the keepers in place. Now a little grease of the keepers helps hold them in place. That's that one, and the other one is right here. I put that little grease holding it in place.
Nice.
So now that that's done, I'm going to put a marker on the top of it so I know that they're all replaced.
Gotcha.
So the other thing I did, going back to compression, is I measured the volume of this chamber.
Okay.
It's very important to know this. This measured out to be 88 cc's, and I do that with a barrette up there and some light oil and a plate on top of this.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a quick show on that. You put some grease on the head. And essentially, you put a plate on there, and you can fill this up and measure the volume. You know, which is super important.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
So you're actually measuring the fluids that you put in.
Yep. This way we know how much volume we have here.
This way it's super accurate.
Yep. And all that tells us where we're going to be compression-wise.
Nice.
So now we're ready to put this together. I already cleaned these a little bit.
So it's incredible how the piston's basically even with this, and that is the combustion chamber.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's your combustion chamber. You can see your 4 valves per cylinder, 2 spark plugs per cylinder.
How'd the valves look? Good?
Good.
Yeah.
Everything looks good. Ready for another beating. Here's your compression release, your electric compression release right there.
Right.
There's the top of the compression release. They're automatic. They're run by the ECM, the timing of them all. That enables us to start these bikes with all this compression.
Cool. Nice and shiny.
Yeah, so next thing you need to do is to finish cleaning these cylinders. Take this one off. We're going to fit the rings, verify the ring fitment and the end gap, and then we can start putting them together.
Cool.
So that's next.
So you got to take that one back off?
Yeah. Yep, I'll take this off now. Not quick here. Nice.
Now, as far as honing them, no need, right? They come.
That's all pre-fit by zippers.
Yeah, gotcha.
I do double check the dimensions though.
Gotcha.
You always check.
Right.
Because we're all people. And mistakes can and will happen, and
Right.
if you don't check, you're gonna have problems. And plus, you don't know where you're at if you have problems.
Right.
If you don't know where your compression's at, and it's not running right, or making the right power, you don't have that answer.
Right. So now, since we're not doing the chain drive at this time, do you still have to get in here for the clutch, right?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Now, do they have a 128 cover?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But now that you've mentioned it, I'm sure someone out there in the YouTube world is going to hook you up.
So I'll have to do some research, see who has one.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's
But what's the exact name for that cover?
called
Right
the
there?
Derby cover.
Derby cover. Okay.
Yeah, you can get a blank one if there are people out there that custom make Derby covers.
Yeah. Let me
I
look
just don't
into
know
it.
the names.
Yeah. Let me look into it.
You know, but that'd be really cool. And some tape wrapped around there
Gotcha.
just to keep the piston kind of centered in the bore.
That was awesome of them to send it out.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what keep us on track.
Yep.
See how we get today. And I use a used base gasket, which is the same thickness that we're using to measure this. You gotta use all this stuff.
Right.
This way, you know, if you don't have the right base gasket in there, you're gonna have a
You don't have the right correct measurements, right?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cover this up for now. Yeah.
So what are you gonna do now?
Well, I'm gonna clean these real quick. I already cleaned this one a little bit, and it's super important to keep these cylinders extremely clean. There's a lot of material in here, dirt you'll see from the machining process.
I want to drive it, not have a computer.
I used to give them bubble baths, but it's really hard to give them a bubble bath, the cylinder in a sink, and run the risk of damaging a spigot.
Gotcha.
These are very delicate down here. So I take rags and see all that dirt that came off of there.
Sure.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna keep doing that till this rag is clean.
That's very important, you're saying, huh?
Yeah, yeah, because all that dirt is machining material. And that'll just cut the rings up and cut the cylinder up. That's so dirty. All right. I think I got these pretty clean right now. Coming out nice and clean. That means you're ready to go to the next step. What I want you to be careful of is whenever you clean this, see that lint?
Yeah.
You gotta blow that out of there.
Even that.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Always keep a good handle on these things. If they jump out of your hands, they're junk. I always try to hook my hand on there really good. I like to mark my pistons. This cylinder here says front, this one says rear. S and S is not labeled, but you can tell by the shape which way they go. See that cutout?
Yeah.
They have to face each other.
Okay.
And you have to look for bigger valve reliefs. That valve relief is bigger than that valve relief. That's the front piston. So we're gonna write in that front F. This one here, And the bigger valve relief, smaller one for the exhaust valve.
So they got a
intake valve.
touch, basically.
Yep, that cutout, that's the rear piston. Don't want to mix them up. And plus, this one here came fit to this bore. Because zippers measures every piston, and they bore each piston
I
to
got
the
you.
bore.
I got you.
So we don't mix them up. It could be a difference of 10,000ths of an inch for this fit.
Oh, got you. Okay.
So we don't want to mix them
So
up.
everything's perfect from them.
Right. They're very meticulous in what they do. I'll put my clip into one side of the piston. That's for when I'm putting it together. We're going to slide these in the cylinder first. We'll slide our pin in, a wrist pin, then we'll put our clip in. So that's the thing there's prepped. It's in here. Check out these rings. Now, ringing gap is very important. You always got to look at your specs for your ringing gap. And they'll come on a sheet.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So even the rings are fitted, everything is fitted to that cylinder with the
Yes.
piston.
But don't trust it.
Right, right, right.
And a lot of them, like the S&S ones, they're close, but they're not fit. You better be filing those rings. If you don't, you're gonna burn your motor up.
Gotcha.
So what happens is if these rings are too tight,
Right.
as this motor gets hot, these ends will hit each other,
Right.
called ring butt, then gouge your cylinder right out.
Yeah, right.
So ringing gap is critical. In fact, I run rings on the looser end of the spectrum. If it's 23 to 25, I'm setting them at 25. So when these are in traffic and they get hot and you're idling and it gets cooking, this is getting hot.
That's expanding.
You want the extra clearance,
Right.
and it doesn't change the horsepower. So that's my way of doing it. In fact, you can see here their markings of where they set their gaps, and I'm gonna put them in measure. I'm gonna actually put a few thousandths more in there because I'm weird about that. And Pete can yell at me at zippers if he wants to. I don't care. Pete's great on the zippers. Pete and Dan, there's a lot of good people down there. But I'm trying to find here. Everything will come with a spec sheet. I'm trying to find here where they'll actually tell you where they want the ringing gaps. Here you go in zippers instructions. You can see here the correct ringing gap should be a minimum of 19 for the top ring and 23 for the second. Now that's actually pretty tight compared to S&S specs. It could be just a difference in the manufacturing of the material of the cylinders.
Right.
The 110 piston cylinder kits from S&S require a lot more ring and gap because it's a differently made cylinder. It's a ductile iron. So just pay very much attention to this. It's critical.
Okay.
And we're going to check them right now. So how I do it. So I bring it down here. I put the top of the cylinder up here. I'll get my feeler gauge and oil
You'd
rings.
probably buy a house if you saw that toolbox, no?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. All the tools are pretty used up, so. But there's a lot in there. So here's your oil ring, and I'll take the piston and I'll bring it down. You make that flush with the cylinder there, and you want to check that gap. That gap on your oil ring needs to be a minimum of 15 thousandths. And it's really hard to check because it's so thin. And actually, they're a little tighter than I want right there. It's a very hard ring to check. It's so light. Yeah, I'm gonna actually open them up a little bit. And the oil ring's kind of a scraper ring these days. A lot of work is done by the second ring and the top ring. And it's pretty snug there. It's not 15 thousandths. So I'm gonna open these up a little bit here.
Just file them down.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I have a tool here I use for doing my rings. I have two in here at one time because otherwise it won't hold it. And when you get old, you need two pairs of glasses to see. Like, John, you must not be old. You only have one pair of glasses.
One pair of glasses? Another year I'll be 50.
Yeah, you are younger than me. So now what I do here, bring this out. Bring it into it touches.
That's very nice.
And these are and what's crucial is we get the burrs off of here. There's a little burr in there, will scratch your cylinder wall. Especially on that outside edge, that little, we'll get a burr. That could be a problem. Let's go with it. Let's see where we're at.
Yeah, you can see that it's a little bit bigger now.
Yeah. Now we're good. Those are good. And the same as everything else, rings are very, very dirty. You gotta clean them.
I was just gonna say, where's it going?
These are already wiped off once, but I'll show you.
Some people don't get it.
That's our second ring. Call it dirt.
Yeah.
You gotta clean everything.
What's that old saying that the old man used to tell me? Tight is right and tight is broke. It's
Good
amazing
stuff.
the shit that sticks in your head, you know?
That's Jeff. He's been working on cars for a very, very long time. He does not beat around the bush with what he says, and it's a lot of fun listening to him. So we're. Oh yeah, yeah. It's the entertainment factor here. Yep, we're good. Again, this isn't that critical. This ring. I'd rather more space than not enough space.
Right. So now you're gonna do the same at the front, right?
We'll do the oils, and we'll do the seconds, and then the tops. And after we're all done with that, we'll put it all through all dirt,
Yep.
put it all together, and go from there. Get some heads on there, get them torqued, and take them. All right, now that we got the oil ring set up, we're going to work on our second rings and top ring. And look at the difference here in color. The top ring is a shiny one. The second ring is this dull one, which is the cast ring. And you can look carefully at the ring. You'll see, look at the shapes of them. This one here is a symmetrical ring. Always look at the shapes of them. The top rings, sometimes you'll have a bevel on the back. The seconds, you'll have, some of them will have a little groove here, or they'll have a bevel in here, and that all tells us which way they go. And these are actually a very simple ring that they're using. So now we're going to check these ring end gaps. Now they're saying second ring is 24,000. That's where they set them at. I'm getting 23. The top ring, which is a molly-faced ring, should be a 21. Let's see where that's at. All right, we got the rings all fit. I'm gonna take note of this ring here. It's very hard to see. I don't know if you can zoom in on it.
Yeah, it's probably too small.
Underneath here, you see that little sharp edge there? There's a little sharp edge there.
Okay.
That faces down on the second ring. That's a scraper. It's very important that we have these rings facing the right way. And S&S is a lot more pronounced, but it's a very similar style ring. And the top ring has a similar shape on both sides, but they do have it marked. If they're not marked, I always look to see which one has a sharper edge, and I'll face a sharper edge up. Or if it has more of a bevel on the inside, I'll face, on the top ring, I'll put the one with the more of a bevel facing up so the compression can help push that out against the cylinder wall.
Gotcha.
So now we're ready to put these on the pistons. So I got them set. We adjusted them. I just checked all the measurements for here with the ring end gaps and touched them up a little bit because that's just what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Now we're going to put them on the pistons. So I already cleaned these. And here's another topic of discussion. People are going to flip out about this, but I don't care. Ring orientation. Rings move on the pistons. They don't stay where you put them. So it's not important to put exactly 12, 6, 4, 3, 2, whatever.
The gaps, you mean, right?
The gap placement.
Right.
That's our separator ring I put there. I'll put my oil ring here. So what I do, and I'm sure some people are going to correct you, because everyone's got their own theory, which is okay. I put them opposite each other. And I put the rings in the wrist pin area. There's less load on it. There's a lot more loads in the front and back of the piston against the cylinder. Like I said, rings will move. You'll take these off, and you're going to see the roll turning around. They spin around.
Right.
So having an exact placement is not a big deal. Don't get too jerked up over it. So we got that.
But you do recommend keeping the gaps at the sides where the wrist pin is.
Yeah, and opposite each other.
Opposite,
I start off with them as far away from each other as they can be.
Right.
And what they do after that, I have no control of.
Gotcha.
So here we have our second ring. Got that little sharp edge. This edge will collect lint, so I like to blow it out really, really good. Just to make sure there's nothing in there that could mark our cylinder.
You're like a surgeon.
You have to be. Dirt's your enemy. Okay, that's in there. Make sure they spin freely. You can see I have no gap there. I'll put that there. Not a big deal. We have our mark, which tells us which way they want this ring to go. For the top ring, it's the shinier ring, which is the moly ring. Careful, don't break your rings either doing this. Spread them just enough to get them over and into the ringland area. Yep, that's there. That's spinning freely. There's no grabbing or marking or anything. Let me put that there. Now we'll get the top one, and the front one, I mean. We'll do the same thing. Alright. Top ring, second ring. We have our mark telling us which way it goes up. We have our little sharp edge down there, which means it is clean. If you put your rings in upside down, you're going to have a lot of oil consumption problems. In fact, they'll be pumping that like crazy.
Definitely don't want that.
No, it ruins your day. Our gaps, we have there, put that there. It's over there, that's good. Our top ring. There we go. It's ready to go in a cylinder. So what we're going to do now is I like to mark them. I'll show you how I do this. Everyone does it differently. Got our edge. That. We'll turn them upside down. I'll make a mark so when I'm putting it in this cylinder, I know which way to go. I put the pistons in the cylinders before I put them on the bike. I just find it easier than trying to fumble with all the rings and stuff when you're in there. So a lot of people do it differently. That's okay. There's Dash and Odie.
What's up, bud?
Really, Odie?
He don't want to be on camera.
I guess he's camera shy. Is that necessary? Is that necessary? Little dork. All right. This, we're going to put our base gaskets on the motor.
Any particular gaskets do you recommend?
These are set up for the compression to help set the height. I think they're 14 thousandths thick. Yep. And that is what's used to set our compression height.
Gotcha.
And again, like everything else,
So what kind of compression were you looking at in the motor?
we're going to be 11 to 1.
11 to 1?
Yes. 11 to 1's our target compression. Miss Cam loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can run such good high compression these days because we have the extra spark plugs in the cylinder to help burn up all the extra unused gases and stuff. There's a lot of reasons why we can do this.
How long do the plugs last usually?
The plugs, they last for a long time.
Like how many miles? 10,000?
If not more.
Yeah.
Haven't changed the plugs in my one bike in 7 years. May not be a bad idea, but every time I look at them, they're okay.
Yeah.
Maybe this year I'll put new plugs in. All right. You can see here it says face up. So we're gonna face it up. All right, this is my ring compressor. These were used in the car industry forever. They have a taper in there, which allows you to get the piston right into the cylinder bore with a lot of ease.
Nice.
Other than that, which works okay, but it doesn't really seat the rings as cleanly into this piston, and you could run the risk of damaging some. So that's why I prefer to use these cylinder rings like this. So now that I got this marked, everything's here marked. I'm gonna oil this up. I'm not gonna use a rag because I don't want the lint. I put a light coat of oil on the pistons and the cylinder. Just to coat it.
Any special lubricant or just?
That's just Valvoline Racing 2050 oil that I use. I use a VR1 for most bikes. It's a non-synthetic oil. I'm not a big synthetic fan. So now that we did that, we're going to oil the piston a little bit. Some people put the rings in dry. I guess I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, but why dry?
I was taught as a young age, oil them up.
Right.
You know, it's all going to burn off, and some people say it might carbon up, but I just think it's much better this way. Okay.
Especially upon the first startup, no?
Yeah. Yep. And that's what it's all about until the piston jets get moving their thing.
All right.
So now what we're going to do, we got our cylinder, we have our marks. Put this into here, we'll double check our gaps one last time for the next 100,000 miles, hopefully. I doubt it, but you know.
That's nice.
There we go. A lot of times you gotta be careful with these rings, especially these second rings, that they could chip going into the cylinder, and that's a problem too.
Nice tool.
There it goes. There she is. All right, put a little bit of lube in the wrist pin there. I use this Torco lube for this side there. Really good stuff. Bring the piston up carefully. Just so I can get the wrist pin in there. The back one I may have to push in the cylinder to get in on the bike, but I always try it anyway in hopes that goes on easy. Okay. Let's go away. Okay. Let's go put a cylinder on.
Let's do it.
All right. Might be able to.
Maybe I'll go on this side.
There you go. A lot of times I have to. There we go. So now I got this positioned here. Get my wrist pin in there. Come on down. The rag is holding my connecting rod over a little bit.
Want me to hold it over? No?
There we go. This pin's in. Bring the cylinder down a little bit, make sure those rings are in there. And now we gotta put this clip in. I like to try and hook it in there. These could be a little tricky to get in. Hear that snap in there?
Yeah.
And always look in here. Make sure that's seated 100% in there. Make sure that clip is seated in that groove. If it's not and it comes out, well, you know what's going to happen. It's going to just tear your cylinder up. So now,
Nice.
that's one. One down, one to go. There we go. nicely seated. Oh yeah. See, I bled for you, John. There we go. Mechanics truly do work for blood and sweat and tears.
Oh, I got myself good in the thumb the other day.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, you live the same life.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so cool.
Nice.
This is on here. What we're gonna do next, put some tape on my knuckle.
That's the best Band-Aid right there.
Absolutely, masking tape.
Masking tape. It's
Perfect.
a working man's Band-Aid.
Beautiful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run it through its stroke a little bit here. Just put these on the cylinders, make sure there's no binding or anything other weird things happening.
Since I checked all the clearances for the compression and deck heights were done there.
Doing everything it should. Looks good.
What do you think, about 150 horse?
I think I need
What does it
another-
feel like?
I think it feels about that. We'll see where she shakes out. I think I need a bigger piece of masking tape for it.
Oh, yeah?
Alright, so now that we spun the motor a few times, make sure everything's looking good in the cylinders. We're going to clean this up again. Here's our head gaskets. We're going with 30 thousandths MLS. I blew them out already to make sure if there's any dust in there we got it out. Clean this surface off here. Gently blow this off. Lint out of there. Looks like that. That's in the casting there. This one here will and since we had our heads prepped already, we're gonna put them on. All right. One. Where is spark plugs? All right, time for head bolts.
Nice.
Get a spark plug. All right, one thing I'm very anal about. Always have the spark plugs in the hole. Always have all holes that debris can get into.
Right.
So before I even put the bolts in, I'm making sure that's filled.
Gotcha.
So now we get some head bolts now. Like I said in the past video, we always replace these head bolts. They're one-time use only. Some bolts. little lube underneath them. And the head and a little bit on the threads.
Stock Harley bolt?
Yep, these are stock Harley head bolts. I don't really see the need to be spending all the money on other head bolts. These work just fine. And the problem is we can spend so much money on everything available for these motors, and it's just, the bills just really get out of control.
Right.
They're expensive as it is. So until I see a problem with reusing these, I'm going to.
And why do you put oil on them?
So we can torque better. It lubricates the threads so we get more
Gotcha.
accurate torque.
Gotcha.
And you can get ARP, they all make different compositions of materials for doing this, but I just prefer the oil to what I've always used.
Gotcha.
I feel comfortable with how it works. Like a motor again. I'll go clean my finger up in a minute. I don't want to gross all the people out in the world. Now we want to watch to see what the torque spec is recommended by the manufacturer. S&S has their own procedure, so does Zipper. You can read this line here. They like going to 5, 10, 15, 25, 35, 45, and to 55. Now the funny thing is S&S, which still uses the same bolts and gaskets, finishes off at 45. So that there has been kind of bugging me. That's a big difference. But it's their kit, their package, we'll listen to them.
Right.
You know, so maybe they felt that that extra 10 pounds of torque helps, but I've never seen a failure
Seal
at
everything.
45.
Gotcha.
I've done hundreds of them at 45, which S&S likes.
I like 55.
All right. 55 is where we'll hit
55 it is.
55 it is.
Or you could use the German torque. Gudentight.
Good and tight, that works too. So we'll start off at 5 pounds.
So you're going to do all the bolts to 5 and the increments like you said on the
Yep.
paper, right?
Yep, we'll follow their procedure, what they recommend. You know, again, it's a different material in your cylinder.
And you're going to do like a crisscross pattern or something? Yeah.
Yep, that's how I do it. I know I'm just still running them down. I didn't even put a 5 yet.
Right.
That's 5. 5 is almost nothing.
Right? It's like hand tight, huh?
Yeah. But they really walk them up slow. 5, 10, 15, 20, geez. It's like almost petting them into place.
But I mean, for me it makes sense. No?
Yeah.
What do you
I mean, I
think?
usually-
So you get it like an even seat, no?
Yeah. And I usually work with,
Instead of slamming one side down to 55 and nothing on the other, right?
oh yeah, you definitely can
Yeah.
do that. You gotta keep it even.
Who made the valve springs that we put in?
TTS has it made
TTS?
in his specifications.
So it's a, you said more heavy duty spring?
Yep, it's a heavier spring, it's got more seat pressure, it's designed for the higher lift cam. And they're not that crazy. Big 55 here.
All right, so now you're doing the final 55 pounds?
Yes, I am. Yep. Torque wrench is set.
Let's go for it.
Now I'm gonna let it sit for a little while and check them.
Gotcha.
And while we're doing that, we're gonna put your intake manifold on.
Cool. And why do you wait? It's a stretch
Just
or
so
anything?
things can settle and stretch.
Yeah, cool.
Make sure we can double check them.
Nice.
We're going to go to the intake manifold. That is next. I like doing this next. It's a lot easier to put this on before the rocker boxes go on. Look at this. You have your flanges, you have your seals, and you also have injectors to install. We are using the 6.2s for you.
So they're gonna go right into the manifold, right?
Yep, we're gonna take this out, change injectors, put it on there.
Gotcha.
All right, let's do some injector changing here. So we got the fuel for the power. All right, let me get over here. There's a little bit of gasoline in here. Here's your rolled injectors. The small ones, we don't need them anymore. Here.
Puny injectors.
That's right, they're puny. We're getting the big injectors in there now. Okay.
They lock into place?
Yeah, they had a little index there.
Gotcha.
But most of them don't have that. Most of them you can turn and swivel around. Go like this.
Oh, that's what holds it, that whole plate, and then you bolt it onto the manifold, right?
Yep. Yep. Now we put. I don't like much Loctite on these because if you got to take them back out, they're not easy because the oil lines are right over them.
Had a question, because someone had a question. You did use red Loctite on some bolts. I forgot what they were.
The cam sprocket bolts.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So now the red, you could still take that off with a
Oh, yeah.
tool?
Oh, yeah.
Impact, or
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
just much harder, obviously, than the blue.
Yeah, it just has a little more holding power than the blue.
Gotcha. So you don't have to like apply heat or nothing?
No,
No.
they come out. But it is a little more holding power.
Gotcha.
There's a few bolts on the bike that I use red on. It's those two, and the compensator and clutch hub nuts,
Okay.
and rear shocks. All right, that's ready.
Awesome.
Flange, taper faces out because the seal's tapered. Very important. I've once seen somebody put the seal on like this and the flange like this, and they wondered why they had a vacuum leak.
Right.
Kind of funny. Wait, see, roll in here. So that's that. Now we'll get our tools out. This. Okay. left our bolts in there before. Now these are the same bolts as your knock sensors. You don't have to get too particular about them. I'll put those in kind of loose. This helps out. And of course, we're going to blow it out one more time. In case something flew in there while we weren't looking.
Right.
Now we've got to kind of lace this through here. Look at that. Turn these little edges down. I can go and capture those bolts.
Nice fit.
Yep. And these I don't put Loctite on either, because when they get frozen there, they're hard to come out, and I don't see them loosening up.
Gotcha.
There's a couple bolts I don't use a Loctite. If you ever had to wrestle an intake bolt that was Loctited or frozen in there, you'll suddenly start agreeing with me.
Definitely much easier to put that in, like you said,
Yeah, when all
before
this,
the covers go on and stuff.
right, that's why that's my pattern. Heads on, throttle body, rocker boxes. And we'll bring these down evenly. Right. Okay. That's good. All right. That's good. All right. That's done. We'll recheck these. We're going to go to your lower rocker boxes. All right.
So now, with the 128, the different gap you recommend, then
I still keep the stock gap with these because they're already set at a loose 35, which is fine. Twin cams are 45.
gotcha.
So just always double check them.
Right.
See, this will go in there real easy. But down to 40, it's not going in, so. And they're all exactly the same. Put a little anti-seize on the threads. All right. Now we need our 5A socket.
Is the actual outside diameter of the cylinder different, or just the
Just the inside.
just the inside? Okay,
the
so the
outside-
overall outside is the same.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like someone walks up to this, they're not gonna know.
Right.
Gives it that kind of stealthy look, you know?
Sleeper.
Until you put 128 on there.
Yeah.
And now just the end of that.
But like you said, it's going to sound totally different, right? With the compression. And,
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a little more deeper, a little more aggressive. They're loose because they'll be in and out a few times. And I don't use any Screaming Eagle spark plugs, Iridians, or any of those magical spark plugs. I see
Stock, right?
The stock 6R12, 6R10. You know, I found a lot of problems with those spark plugs. Especially with twin cams, the Screaming Eagle spark plugs. I've seen the porcelains fall off of them.
Wow.
The knock sensors don't work right. You know, if they're on the dyno, I can see my tack on will be spazzing out from them. Just don't waste your money on them.
Gotcha.
Keep it simple. And the other problem is a lot of aftermarket plugs, this tip on screws.
Oh yeah, you're saying.
So what happens is,
the NGK plug does that?
yep,
Yeah.
they'll loosen up and they'll get corrosion in between there, or they'll unscrew. It just leaves yourself open for another problem you don't need.
And the reason they have that to unscrew, what? If it corrodes, you could replace the...
No, it's for different types of applications.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Different wire?
Yeah, some vehicles don't have that piece on there. They just go right on the threaded area.
Gotcha.
The spark plugs are generic. They're used in other vehicles too. Okay.
Not as tight.
Like I said, we're gonna leave it loose because I'll be taking these in and out as I'm rotating the motor around. Let's double check our torque. It's just been sitting for a little while. It's all good.
Felt the difference on some?
Yeah,
No?
pretty consistent. All right, we're good. Have to clean them up because they're dirty.
You have the new O-rings already, or those are just...
Yep, right there.
Oh, these are still the old ones? The
Yep.
stock ones?
I usually clean stuff as I'm going back together. Some people clean as they're taking it apart. It works either way. I put more razor blades in my holder right there. Let's go with some garbage. Throw some garbage. I'll use some 4/0 steel wool on the chrome to help bring them up to back to original shine. This you get from Home Depot or wherever.
And don't scratch at all, right?
No.
No. Clean them up now because it's a bitch later, right?
That's right. That's right. Gotta get all your old bugs off of there. You put new bugs on there. Alright. Now I'll bring this, let me grab this over
Yep.
here. So I can clean them off. It likes to hang out in there, I tell you. You don't need to use a ton of brake clean. Just spray a little and get it wet. You can blow it off. Instead of just soak. Just wastes a lot. Now these are the same front to back.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter where it goes, right?
It doesn't matter. So I usually look at, especially older bikes where there's marks that you'll see, and put the nicest ones where you see them.
Gotcha.
So we got them all nice and clean. Let's get our gaskets in place. This could be a little tricky. That's why I like them to be really clean so they try not to fall out.
Right. That's why they have those, I think, little grooves on it, on the rubber, right, to kind of hold it in place.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah, that helps make them stay.
Because otherwise, forget it, right? You turn it over and they fall out.
Yep. You have to put grease in the grooves to hold them.
Gotcha.
Then you got grease slammed all over the place.
Then that prevents a good seal, right? I know.
It doesn't seem to affect it, but I think it definitely would hinder it.
Gotcha.
Because you have a lubricant in there.
Right.
So I like to do it dry if I can, you know? This way it stays nice and sealed the best we can. Alright. Let's see. Alright, so when we're doing this, we need to get our ACR wire.
Since we're going in there, you know, in the fork sizes, check everything, internal fork components, and just replace it.
That spark plug wire. Now when you put these down, you can see it's hitting your valve springs. Mm-hmm. You gotta kind of rock it and get it around there. We go around to make sure everything's seated nice. That's perfect. Get the other one.
And obviously, you know that it's seated good because obviously it'd be cocked, right, or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of feel it, the rubber rolling around in there. But if you get these grooves really nice and clean, and they usually, the gasket will behave.
Gotcha.
Stay in there. There we go, perfect. Now it's time for our hardware for those. Alright, and we put those. She's been sitting for a week.
Yeah.
You want to cut it there or the bolts in? Put the bolts in and cut it there.
Sure.
Alright. As always, you clean everything. If there's a lot of debris in those threads, I will take them to the wire wheel and clean them out.
You Loctite these or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me go clean these up on the wire
Sure.
wheel real quick. Alright, we got the bolts all cleaned up. Little Loctite, you don't need to soak them. We'll start putting these bolts in. Center bolt.
Put the center one in first?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but that's where my hands went first.
Gotcha.
But the center one is the last one I torqued down.
Gotcha.
It's the first one I unbolt and the last one I torque because I've seen where these rockers will warp like this.
Oh, wow.
So you want to release that pressure first and apply that pressure last.
Gotcha.
Try and keep that from happening. This is all stuff when you do it for a while, you see different things and you try and find ways to keep problems from happening. I try and start centering the rocker box as much as I can here.
So there's no like pin or nothing to center them, huh?
No, there isn't.
What? Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't they do that, right?
That's a good question.
Because I mean, having this centered, I mean, means a lot because you obviously it's dealing with the valve.
Oh yeah, well this is a cover, but still your gasket placement.
Right.
And especially with twin cams, it does deal with the valve, rocker arms, and so I don't know why they don't pin them. But they're not perfect machines.
Oh, but what is this piece called that rides in here?
That is your rocker shaft. That's where the rocker
shaft, right? So this part is part of the head. It's not part of the cover.
Yeah,
okay.
that's fixed.
All right, gotcha.
But on twin cam, it's not. It bolts on top.
Oh, really?
Yes. We'll make some videos with that one.
So then the placement's really important, no?
Yeah. I mean, that's something we can do some twin cam videos for people one of these days.
Sure.
Because how people enjoy that as well. So I'm bringing these down, just seating these bolts here.
5 per cover.
Yep.
Is that called the cover? What is this called?
This is a lower rocker box.
Lower rocker box.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what that's called technically. And be careful with these edges. So they're all blood letters.
Yeah.
A lot of sharp edges on this motor. Alright, get my torque wrench set. There's 130 inch pounds. Go to 130 inch pounds on these. Spec is 120 to 140, I believe.
130 inch pounds?
Yeah, the spec's like, I think the spec is 120 to 140 on these. Outer ones, the inner one is less. That's 120 mounts, I think. I go over them a couple times.
Uh-huh.
I guess because I just want to make sure that they settle in nice. And then we'll get the center ones, which I'm doing last.
Same torque on the center?
No, it gets less.
Uh-huh.
The center gets less. Let's go with my things when you see. Yeah, it's 90 to 120 on the lower, on the center bolt.
Gotcha.
I got cheat sheet up there.
Cheat sheet. That's good to have. You don't have to go searching for it.
That's right. You might kind of remember it, but
All right.
it's always good to. So that's ready. You gotta put your breathers in next. And after that, we're gonna go into the rocker arms and push rods.
Stay tuned.
She's getting close.